This hearing wasn't just about immigration. It was about whether constitutional rights still have real limits.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for being here. You know, Michigan's a border state, so we need each other. We have a very big bridge that's being inaugurated, ribbon cut in September. We need that to be fully staffed. We have a lot going on in Michigan as a northern border state, so we need each other. But what I'm concerned about is that you've taken the mandate to close off the border beyond going after, as you say, the, quote, most dangerous illegal immigrants. I'm a CIA officer. I worked my entire life to protect the homeland. If someone's here illegally, they need to not be here. They've committed a crime by being here. They need to go back to wherever they're from. But my concern is that either through sloppiness or intent, you have gone far beyond going after the, quote, most dangerous illegal immigrants and gone into legal immigrants who were given the ability to be here, and even American citizens. And when I think about that, you know, there are lots of people in this country, including me, who have families who fled this kind of environment where they have no rights, where they have no due process, where they don't have habeas corpus. So while I'll be the first to say, coming from a state that was won by Trump, that there is a mandate to do something about the border, I think it is absolute dangerous overreach to go beyond that and start picking up American citizens and people who have the legal right to be here, lawful immigrants who have done everything right. So first and foremost, do you acknowledge that your department has made some mistakes, any mistakes, in going after either American citizens or legal immigrants here in the time that you've been in office?
We have not deported any U.S. citizens.
Detained?
Or people get interviewed. If they get interviewed and they go through that process and we find that they're U.S. citizens or legal immigrants, they stay in the United States.
Have you deported
we have to go through the vetting process.
Have any American citizens, including children, been deported during your time in office?
We have children that mothers have chosen to keep with them. So those
by my count, you have 10 American citizens, including children with cancer, who have been deported out of the country. I understand you're saying it's their choice.
But
it's hard to imagine a small child having a choice. But have you gone after legal immigrants? Again, your standard in your opening statement was the most dangerous illegal immigrants. Does that include PhD students and master's students at colleges across the country, unarmed? Are they the most dangerous illegal when they have status and no weapons?
I don't decide who gets status through a student program. The Department of State decides that, and we enforce it.
Oh, come on.
That's what our Department of Homeland Security does.
I just would offer that, again, I have no qualms with going after folks who are here illegally. That is not my concern. That was part of my job, was to prevent people from coming here illegally in a former life. My concern is you're sending a chill down the spine of America by going after people who either have legal status or American citizens. And when my colleagues ask you about habeas corpus, and you say, literally, we can review the tape, that you believe it's a right the president has, you sat here in front of all of us and swore an oath to the Constitution, and that is not at all what habeas corpus is. It is a right that we all get, that American citizens get, that people who are in the United States legally have. So my concern is, it's complete overreach. I don't think American citizens, even those who voted for Trump, believe that you should be able to just grab someone off the street, sloppy, who has the legal right to be here, and certainly an American citizen. And I just am concerned that while you say you're going after the most dangerous folks, what you're actually doing is going after folks for political reasons, right? A PhD student that's unarmed is not at the top of the list.
And we're not deporting U.S. citizens, and we're not deporting people who have legal status here.
10 American citizens have been deported.
If the children have gone with their parents, it's because their parents wanted them with them. So let me ask you another question
about cybersecurity. You know, you've cut $500 million from the budget. What specific programs are you cutting? Because there are programs that really aid states and locals that we depend on for cybersecurity. And we know that right now, while we may have good security in the federal government, if you are a local state official, you're depending on the federal government. So have you cut the ISAC program, the program to states and locals on cybersecurity.
The president's recommended budget has a reduction in $491
Does it cut
million.
that program? I've heard the
and what
talking
it's
point.
doing
Does
is
it
putting
cut the
CISA
program?
back on mission.
You
and it's
can't say
ensuring
that this is the most
cybersecurity is going to be strengthened.
You cannot say it's the most cyber secure administration if you're cutting the program to my state and to your state.
It will
and if you
be
look
when
on
we-
record, that's what you've cut. I yield back.
Time has expired. Senator Hawley.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Noem, good to see you.
What makes this exchange so striking isn't just the confrontation, it's the collision between enforcement power and constitutional limits. Representative Elissa Slotkin approaches this as someone who's spent her career protecting national security. She makes clear that border enforcement itself isn't the issue. Her argument is more fundamental. A government can secure its borders and still violate the very principles it claims to defend. Slotkin draws a sharp line between undocumented immigration and the rights of people who are legally present or are American citizens. That distinction matters because immigration enforcement operates under civil law, not criminal law. Civil enforcement does not give the government unlimited authority to detain, remove, or punish without due process. When enforcement drifts into sloppiness or overreach, the consequences are not abstract. They land on real families, real communities, and, as Slotkin highlights, even children who are U.S. citizens. The moment she presses Secretary Noem on whether American citizens have been deported is especially important. The response hinges on technical language and choice. Officials often argue that children were not deported, but left with their parents. Legally, that distinction may exist on paper, but Slotkin challenges the moral and practical reality of that claim. A child cannot meaningfully consent to exile, especially when that child is sick or dependent. This exchange exposes how bureaucratic framing can obscure human impact. Slotkin also raises habeas corpus, a cornerstone of constitutional law that predates the United States itself. Habeas corpus is not a privilege granted by a president. It is a protection against arbitrary detention designed to prevent governments from disappearing people without justification. When Slotkin expresses alarm at comments suggesting this right could be overridden, she is warning about a threshold moment. Once due process becomes optional, enforcement power no longer has a limiting principle. Another layer of this hearing is the chilling effect Slotkin describes. Even when deportation does not ultimately occur, aggressive enforcement against students, legal immigrants, or citizens creates fear. That fear discourages people from attending school, reporting crimes, seeking medical care, or engaging in civic life. From a national security perspective, that instability weakens communities and undermines trust between the public and the government. Slotkin's pivot to cybersecurity funding reinforces her broader point. Homeland security is not just about immigration enforcement. It includes protecting infrastructure, local governments, hospitals, and elections from cyber threats. Cutting programs that support states and localities while expanding aggressive enforcement raises questions about priorities. Security is not achieved by focusing on one visible threat while quietly undercutting others. What this hearing ultimately reveals is a deeper tension over power and restraint. Slotkin is not arguing against enforcement. She's arguing for limits, transparency, and constitutional guardrails. Her message is that security achieved at the expense of rights is not real security at all. History shows that when governments normalize exceptions, those exceptions expand. This exchange invites viewers to think beyond partisan labels and ask harder questions. How much power should the government have over individuals? Who decides when rights can be set aside? And how do we measure safety when fear itself becomes a tool of enforcement? If you want more coverage that breaks down what these hearings mean beyond the headlines, like the video, subscribe to Capital Lens, and share your thoughts in the comments.